Welcome to episode 2 of the Six Steel City Rings podcast. With me, I have Miss Leanne Lohman, I have Bob Quinn, and I am Ray Whiting. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in to the podcast. How you all doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, given the fact that there was a national outage, with cell phones. You know,
That was crazy. It didn't affect me, but I saw it was messing everybody else up.
yeah. I was thinking about that all day today, and I'm thinking, you know what? This is what it was like before the cell phone age just boomed. And so let's go back to the payphone booths. I don't know.
Yeah, it does make you realize like how dependent everything you do is on them. I was looking for stories and I was like, if my cell phone goes out, how am I going to find a story?
Yes.
I remember,
Oh,
I remember when a truck used to hit the T1 lines back in the early 2000s and knock out call centers and all the phones up and down the East Coast for businesses, and you have to send
Oh yeah.
everybody home. And everybody would be like, What's the problem? My phone works fine. Yeah, your phone works fine, but if you're on the T1 internet piped in, you can't work.
right.
Philadelphia to Florida.
Yes. 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 Well, guys, let's just go to work and let's talk steel football. um, Diontae Johnson. Diontae right now, there's been speculation that he may leave. There have been some grumblings about him, and there's a possibility of a hold-in. Please share your thoughts on that. And I have my thoughts as well, but I want to hear from you all.
You want to go first, Bob?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So, I mean, so many things have come up this week with the rumor that he's unhappy, that, the Steelers might trade him. There's now the possibility of a hold-in. The reality is he's entering the last year of his contract, $18 million, which compared to what some of the other top wide receivers are making is a bargain. But realistically, if he's going to hold in and demand 25 to 30 million dollars, and you've got a guy like T. Higgins sitting out there, then it becomes a question of, do you reach out and see if you can dump him in a trade and free up that salary cap money? And if you're going to pay $25 million to someone, I'd rather pay T. Higgins, who is a good fit in the Arthur Smith offense, big, tall, physical receiver, pairing him with George Pickens. Diontae Johnson is a great route runner. We'll see where he fits in this offense. But if you're going to have to, if he's going to hold in and say, you've got to pay me more money to play, Leanne, I really think they need to just cut bait and move on.
Well, what I really heard and what Jerry Dulac said, and if this is, true or not, who knows, but was that he was going to hold in demanding that Mason Rudolph be the quarterback in part, that he wants to play for Rudolph and not for Pickett. And I thought, holy cow, like you have that much power? Do you know what I mean? Like I was shocked. Like I can't imagine Mike Tomlin going, we're going to change our whole trajectory of the team and what we were planning to do because we don't want to rock the boat with a wide receiver. Like that's definitely not them. The Steelers let wide receivers go all the time, left and right, and find the next one and bring him into wide receiver and build him up. So I like Johnson. I don't want to see him go anywhere. I do think he's a bargain. I think he's grown a lot in his game. I was impressed with the way he dedicated himself to fixing the drop ball problem and all of those things. But I did expect to see a step forward in leadership from him last year that I felt like, we didn't quite see. Like I'd hoped to see him. We saw some glimmers of it initially with George Pickens. And then, when he had that fight with Mika and things kind of fell apart as he got more and more frustrated.
Yeah. The weird thing about Johnson is, you would think his rookie year, he comes in, Ben gets hurt, and he's really he really was the best wide receiver. And you can make the argument he has been his whole career in Pittsburgh. Although, even if he's still getting treated like the number one, like he was last year, I mean, Pickens is almost impossible to deny as a talent. So, and I don't think Canada and Faulkner and Sullivan did a good job of even after Canada was gone, of trying to focus on Pickens. And if anybody should be lobbying for Mason Rudolph to come back, it's George Pickens, because
Yeah.
he started throwing him the ball down the field. Johnson, I think ESPN last year said he was the best route runner in the NFL. There's a value to Johnson. I don't know that it's in Pittsburgh with Pickett or whoever's playing quarterback, because I think he, like Ben was in his last couple of years with Diontae, and they talked about it. Ben talked about it on several times, where he would just give Diontae a look, and Freiermuth talked about it when he was on the Roethlisberger podcast, that Ben would just give them a look, and the ball would come out immediately, and in where they needed to catch it, 2 steps and go. And unfortunately, with the exception of Rudolph at the end of the year, when he had that great throw in the Ravens game when it looked like they were not going to do anything, and then he hit Johnson on the slant and he was gone. I mean, there's a lot of value to Johnson, but then again, we're looking at the Arthur Smith offense, where you're pounding the ball, you're running, you boot action, you tight end or deep to the wide receiver. Now all of a sudden, is that quick 2-step get open? Does it mean anything in Arthur Smith's offense?
A good point. What do you think, Ray?
There we go. Okay. Diontae has been pretty vocal about the quarterback play. And I remember I don't think he's really too happy with Kenny Pickett. It's quite obvious. He spoke in the beginning of the season, I think it was last year, about Mitch Trubisky. I mean, he preferred Mitch over Kenny Pickett. This year, he said a few things. I don't want to misquote what he said, but it wasn't positive about Kenny Pickett. So I can see him, trying to lobby for the Steelers to re-sign Mason Rudolph to a contract. Now, does Mason deserve that $10 to $12 million range? No.
Over how many years?
Right. Because let's see, how long has he been on the roster? Let's see, at least
2018 he was drafted.
6 years, yeah. So we'll say probably a third of his career is gone. Ben put in, look how many years Ben put in. So we'll say a third of his career has been on the bench. So Mason has, I think he understands his assignment. The question is, can he fulfill it, and can he live up to it? Can he exceed it? I believe the Steelers should go ahead and sign him. Let it be incentive-based. That if you do so much as far as throw maybe 300-yard games, that's extra. That's a bonus right there. If you, somebody passes to, say, probably Pickens or DJ, something like that, to really get the offense going. Because again, it's been stagnant ever since the last 2 seasons of Ben's career there. It's been pretty stagnant, and thanks in part to Matt Canada.
Well, I don't know if you could call 2020 stagnant. Been through 33 touchdown passes. The thing about Diontae, and the point you brought up about him liking Mitch at the beginning of last year. Well, the whole reason, allegedly, I mean, some say this incident happened. Now there's some people who say it didn't. But Diontae Johnson got in a fight with Mitch Trubisky, allegedly, at halftime of the Jets game, and that's why Kenny Pickett played the second half and basically took over. So Diontae saying, "Oh, I'd rather have Mitch" at the beginning of last year, then it becomes okay, so you want Mitch, you want anybody who's going to throw you the ball, which is any wide receiver. I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, now I want Mason, who's a free agent. We're going to overpay for Mason Rudolph to make Diontae Johnson happy? I don't think so. I mean, if you could get Mason on a good, but here's one thing talking about Mason. Why would Mason trust the Steelers at this point with how he's been handled to say, okay, well, we're going to let you compete with Kenny Pickett? Well, they were going to let him compete with Kenny Pickett in 2022 and Mitch Trubisky. that lasted not even half of the Seattle
Right.
preseason game.
Okay.
So now, if I'm Mason, and I can get, let's say, 3 years, $12 million as a backup somewhere else, or 2 years and $10 or $12 million somewhere else, am I going back to the Steelers and saying, if you want me, double that and I'll come back?
Yeah, Bob, here's my thing. So does Mason really have a leg to stand on? Well, I think he does, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate. When Ben injured his elbow, he's out for the season, that Seattle game, because I was there. And it was the case of Mason, Duck Mason, And Mason, I mean, of course, as you well know, when it comes to Steeler football, next man up, when you're in the game, you have to produce. Otherwise, you'll be back on the bench. I mean, Mason has been given chance after chance. Now
and
that's
has not
downside.
produced and didn't
Right.
produce
And
until this time.
Right. And let's not forget the infamous Cleveland game where he got hit in the head with a helmet by Myles Garrett. So that's going to play.
Well, I mean, that's not Mason's fault. I mean,
it's not Mason's fault. You're right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that to me, the more pressing, or I should say more important injury, was the Ravens game where Duck came in to begin with.
Yeah.
When he got drilled, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen, when they took his face mask off, kept his helmet on. Why they didn't cart him off the field, I have no idea.
I don't know. That was terrible.
They picked him up and walked him off, and I mean, he was woozy. And let's face it, Duck, if Juju doesn't fumble the ball, Duck's probably going to win that game. And I think that's why when Rudolph did come back healthy before they went to Duck permanent, well, not permanently, but for a few games, that was really in the back of Tomlin's mind. Hey, he doesn't turn the ball over. He moved the ball. We should have won the Ravens game if Juju doesn't fumble.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just struggle with the fact that if maybe Mason developed over time, right? Maybe he didn't have those early couple of seasons when he came in for Ben. But if he has developed into this fantastic talent at quarterback, do you mean to tell me that nobody noticed it? Like Mike Sullivan didn't notice it, like Mike Tomlin didn't notice it, like all of a sudden he just pops out as this great talent. I mean, Mike Tomlin has been burying him on the depth chart his entire career, and I don't buy it. I feel like if he'd been such a great talent, then we would have been utilizing him more than we were. Do you know what I mean? And I maybe he didn't get to compete enough, whatever, but I think that they probably felt like, well, we know this guy, you know what I mean? We see him all the time. And so, I don't know how he pulled off those 3 games. I don't, but I would be really concerned if he was our starting quarterback next season, that he would be able to, I know a lot of people want him back, but I don't know that I think he can continue this pattern. I don't think he's a starter.
When I think
go ahead, Ray.
When I think of Mason Rudolph, I think of, again, I said last week, I think of Landry Jones. When the moment arrives, I mean, seize the moment and you got to play to the hills. And as you well know,
Landry Jones didn't really seize the moment, though. I mean, he was basically played out his rookie contract and was gone.
Left, yeah. I'm happy for Mason. I'm glad he performed well. Do you know what I mean? I think this is awesome. If this extends his life in the NFL by a few years, if he gets to go somewhere else and feel like he's more respected and have an opportunity to play, I think that's great, and I'm happy for him. But I'm shocked that so many people think he should come back and be the starter next year just because he was the hot hand week 18.
Well, you look at the Mason stands, and Mark Caboli might be the president of the Mason Rudolph fan club.
Right. I can't take him seriously.
I mean, I understand, they'll always throw out, well, those 11 games, he had better stats than Kenny Pickett. And yes, he absolutely did. But does anybody think we were any good with Mason during those 11 starts? I mean, we were 8-8 in 2019, and he lost his job for performance to Duck, and then he lost his job to injury to Duck. Duck's out of the league. I mean, let's face it, he had his moment in the sun, and now he's having another one with his
His new girlfriend.
Lainey Wilson, I think it is.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
country music star. And good for him. I mean, and one thing I loved about Duck was he never took himself seriously. He knew this was all, hey, I fell into this and I found it, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw caution to the wind and play how I want to play. They're gonna replace me. Ben's coming back. He just threw caution to the wind.
He was a
And
he was a patchwork. He was
even
a
when he went to
patchwork
the
quarterback.
CFL.
Right.
Yeah, even when he went to the
Yeah.
CFL, he was no good.
He was a patchwork quarterback to me. Just kind of
Yeah.
a little cut, don't put a little band-aid and just keep on going. I believe at this point, because we're talking about this, and this just popped up in my head, I believe that they're going to re-sign him because, for one, I believe that Mason saved Mike Tomlin's winning record.
Yeah.
I believe
agreed.
he did.
Well,
And
they've got Mitch's money, so they're just going to roll Mitch's money right into Mason. That
Well,
$11 million
if they'll
or
take it.
whatever it
and I
is.
don't blame him. I don't blame him. I mean, keep in
Yeah.
mind, remember when Mike Wallace, they offered him that 7-year, $42 million contract, and Mike Wallace felt like that wasn't enough, so he left. They rolled that money over to AB, and the rest is history. So
History,
I
yep.
mean, I don't blame them if they roll Mitch's money over to Mason Rudolph.
Mhm.
Great.
Well, on the Ray Fittipaldo was on the PM team with Pony and Mueller. I think it was 2 days ago, and they were doing sort of a word association, kind of like the Starkey thing. What is the percentage chance you think somebody will be on the roster as the quarterback? And as they were, they threw out the names: Justin Fields, 20%, Russell Wilson, 15%. When they got to Mason, it was 10%. I mean, he didn't think, he thought there was a better chance Russell Wilson, who he didn't think was a good idea.
That's crazy.
But and I think it all comes down to, like a guy like Caboli, who's a huge fan of Rudolph, and some of the other writers who knew watching practice. Well, maybe our best quarterback is sitting there. Bottom line is he was almost out of football. I mean, he re-signed as the third string quarterback because nobody wanted him last year. Now there's going to be a market for him. I don't think he would have came back to Pittsburgh if he had a choice. I mean, his choice was sell insurance or,
Right.
Make $1 million standing on the sideline, and he got a chance to play.
Yeah.
I think this year his choice is going to be a lot of second and third string, but I can't see any NFL team at this point saying, hey, we need Rudolph as a starter. I could see him as a good fit somewhere like Carolina, where you're backing up Bryce Young, or
maybe
somebody
helping
like
that
that
young kid out. Yeah.
Yeah, where you're going to get a chance to play. And I would say him and Kenny have a good enough relationship to do that, but I don't think Tomlin and Rudolph have a good enough relationship to do that.
Probably not. I think he's such a nice guy that I think that people want to cheer for him. Do you know what I mean? Some of these local media people, like I was shocked by like Ramon Foster and DK, like, acting like this is a foregone conclusion that he'll return to Pittsburgh and it will be all for this money and that he should be the starting quarterback based on these stats from 3 games that he played. You know what I mean? That he should be the starting quarterback. And I wouldn't be the first one to say like it should definitely be Kenny Pickett. Do you know what I mean? I'm not opposed to somebody else coming in. I just don't think it should be Mason Rudolph.
Bob, you mentioned earlier about Russell Wilson. Ocho Cinco, well, let me go by his government name, Chad Johnson. Say it.
Didn't he legally change it to Ocho?
I was going to say, isn't that his government name now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his government name is Ocho Cinco.
Yeah, he changed it.
His mama gave him Chad. I'm going to call him Chad.
Coming to America there. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. But, he said a little birdie told him that Russell Wilson is coming to Pittsburgh. I'm not fully sold on that. And let's face it, when Russell Wilson went to Denver, Denver basically gave him everything but the franchise, alone. That's with a 6-year with $245 million contract. You have your own office, and you have 2 parking spaces, and I mean, what were they thinking? And so now, I think, when Sean Payton came to town, I guess he brought him back to reality, or make him humble. Part of me says that Russell Wilson is washed up. I don't think he has that much left in the tank. Just I'll say, take the money, enjoy married life, with your family, and live happily ever after. But I don't think that Russell Wilson is a great fit right now for the Steelers because, again, I don't think he could do it. He had some chances in Denver last year. He just can't do it anymore. I'm sorry.
He finished last season on the bench. Like,
Right.
why are we even
Yeah.
considering this guy? And doesn't he come with I don't know all the contract specifics, but doesn't he come with a pretty hefty price tag if the Steelers
Yes.
were to pick him up? I mean, so an expensive bench player too.
Mhm.
Well, Leanne, I'm sure you saw this in the chat the other day when we all were kind of arguing about Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
All right, so if you could get Russell Wilson on the cheap, the veteran minimum, I'll take the side I don't believe in for a second.
Right.
But a couple of our editors were very passionate about this. If you could get him for the veteran minimum and for 1 year and play him, is there a value to it? Maybe. Okay. I'm very much not convinced that he's
Yeah.
a good quarterback at this point in his career. He was great at one time. He's not, in my opinion, he's not anymore. But even if you can get him on a 1 year veteran minimum, what does that do for you? And is there anything in Russell Wilson's history that makes us think, okay, yeah, I'll play for the veteran minimum for 1 year. I'll take, and then I'll go out on a prove it deal. And when I'm 36 years old and you're going to pay me millions of dollars, $40 million, $50 million. They're talking about Dak Prescott getting $60 million. I mean, no, I mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta, hey, Russell, you're getting 39 million from Denver. Let's factor that in. If you're gonna do it, okay, we'll give you 50 million for 2 years, plus your 39 you're getting for Denver. Now you feel like you're getting a reasonable, and then okay, fine, you're gonna try that. I don't think it'll work. I think he's washed up. Mark Caboli was on the Joe Starkey show yesterday and said he thought he hadn't had a good year in 4 years.
Yeah.
I think it's more like 3 to be
Yeah.
fair. But he was bad his last year in Seattle. He was bad in Denver the first year. He was better this year, but he's not great. And then a 35-year-old undersized quarterback who was playing in Drew Brees' undersized quarterback offense.
Yeah.
We couldn't make the reads and throw quick. I don't know. I don't see it. Plus, according to Gaboli, he says it'll never happen because of the locker room issues that Russell Wilson has. There's a rumor that he is very difficult to get along with,
He's
and they don't
cancerous.
think they will put
Yeah.
him in the locker room. Go ahead, Leanne.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see any chance him coming to Pittsburgh. I think Ojo Cinco, Chad Johnson likes to run his mouth, and I think all these guys like to make comments. So, who knows who he was talking to or what they said or if that person even knew anything. But I just don't even see the Steelers seriously entertaining that. I was shocked when the Broncos paid him all that they paid him. I mean, shocked. So I just don't see the Steelers doing it. And I agree with you that I think that, while the league is good about holding those things close to their vest, lots of stuff has leaked out about him over the years, not being the best team player, being kind of a cancer in the organization. And it just seems like the last thing we need. And then, like you said, what is the value to be had for the Steelers for this? We're not looking for a 1 year stopgap while Kenny Pickett matures or something. If we're sticking with Pickett, he's got to go out there this year and prove it to us, or we need to be looking at something else for the future of our organization, but not overpaying Russell Wilson to get one mediocre year out of him.
But
Yeah.
Leanne, think about this. So, well, Bob, you say, okay, a 1 year league minimum salary. So what if he messes up? What if he does? I mean, folks want to say, why did we waste $1 million on him? Blah, blah, blah. We should have got somebody else paid more money. So it's a case of damn if you do, damn if you don't.
100%.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know if it's waste like if you get him for $1 million. I mean, let's say he does mess up. Well, you bench Kenny Pickett because you're not bringing Russell Wilson in to
Right.
back up Kenny Pickett. So let's say you turn to Pickett halfway through the year, and he's okay. He's what Kenny has been. He'll win. He wins some close games for you. You know, you're a little bit over 500, maybe even make the playoffs. And a year from now, you don't have Russell Wilson under contract. Kenny Pickett is now in his 5th-year option. What do you got? You got nothing. So, I mean, if you're gonna sell out and go for Wilson, you got to get him for a couple of years. It's just like, if you bring in Justin Fields or you bring in Kirk Cousins or you bring in, which I don't think the Kirk Cousins thing has any chance of happening. I mean, he's got a tailor-made offense in Minnesota. Although, if Justin Jefferson is leaving, then all of
They'll
a sudden
take him.
maybe, yeah,
Maybe we can
exactly.
offer them Diontae Johnson for Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. I'm sure.
Hey, I like that.
Omar Khan can
Jefferson-
talk him into that.
Yeah, Jefferson is amazingly a free agent.
He is.
That Minnesota
Yeah.
didn't sign it.
I know, it's unbelievable. The thing is, too, is that I think that a little bit of the Russell Wilson thing comes up, like the same argument that people are making about Field, which is that he's going to want to go somewhere knowing he's a starter for whatever this year is. Do you know what I mean? And he's not going to sign to come in and back up Kenny Pickett. I just don't see either of those guys doing that. And I mean, I don't even think Justin Fields would be willing to come in and have a serious quarterback competition. I realize you're always having a quarterback competition, but he's not going to come in acknowledging that, like, hey, I could be the backup.
Okay, so you say, okay, we're not going to bring a league veteran in, to back up Kenny Pickett. I understand that.
As a backup, yes, like maybe
As
like
a
a
backup.
Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota,
Right.
one of
No,
those
no,
guys.
not
that'll be
not
willing to
Mariota.
be a
No,
backup.
Minshew.
Put him back there with the
Yeah.
cheerleaders. Put him back with the cheerleaders.
I don't want him either, but I'm just saying those are names. Minshew, he's another one. I think he could come in and be a backup.
So we've had bad luck with Mitch Trubisky. Okay. Now, I'm going to say it bluntly, balls to the wall and just trade some picks to get that top pick? Either get maybe JJ McCarthy or Caleb Williams or Michael Penix or Bo Nix. Do we give away some trade picks to get that top pick and get that quarterback? Do we do that?
Well, first of all, those are not the top of the quarterback class. Those are all guys we could get just where we are. And I
Not
personally,
Williams.
no, not Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
But I don't know how realistic any kind of a trade to get up into the top 3 is. Could the Commanders do it? I don't know why they would. But if they did, now you're picking 3rd, and Caleb Williams is not getting past the 2nd pick in the draft. Personally, I don't see it. But he is going to be the first first pick or 2nd pick. If the Bears keep Fields, Marvin Harrison's probably going first, but then with the 2nd pick, he's off the board. 3rd is where it gets interesting. With Drake May reminds me so much physically of Ben Roethlisberger. If we could, would we? But the stigma of a North Carolina quarterback is you got the stinging of Mitch Trubisky, but Mitch isn't the only one who's had trouble coming from that school. Jaden Daniels has started to fall down the draft board in mock drafts. I don't think after the combine he'll keep falling, but I do a mock almost every day on my Twitter account, and Jaden Daniels has been available 3 days in a row. If Jaden Daniels is available, that's where we need to go. Personally, Bo Nix, it's Kenny Pickett. 6 years in college, had a good year. Michael Penix didn't look good in the Senior Bowl. He's got a few more intangibles that I like. Something about a left-handed quarterback. He does have a power arm, but if people are expecting him to be mobile, he's definitely less mobile than Pickett. I've heard Spencer Rattler thrown around in the mid rounds. Personally, I'd rather have Jordan Travis from FSU because I think he's got a little bit more intriguing skill set.
Bo Nix has come up a lot too.
Yeah,
I'm not sold on the quarterbacks. I'm just not sold on them. It just. I'm sorry. Is that Pac-12 stigma? I can't. I'm sorry. I mean, the last Pac-12 quarterback that really flourished was
Warren Moon.
we'll
Probably.
a little sooner. We'll say what Matt Leinart, but he had a little short stint. But yeah,
No.
Warren Moon.
Yeah.
Warren Moon.
Yeah, I mean, Warren Moon's a Hall of Famer. So
Yeah.
He is.
I mean,
Yes.
there probably is somebody since Leanne. I thought she said
I'm
somebody.
sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's somebody.
it's possible, but I mean, to me, those are all just guys. I mean, Bo Nix. I mean, forget about the Oregon thing for a second. He was horrible in the SEC. I mean, he left Auburn for a reason. It's not like Auburn was a powerhouse who had, at one time they were, but they weren't
Yeah.
under Bo Nix. He transferred to Oregon because he failed in the SEC. So I don't believe one good year in the Pac-12 is all of a sudden going to make him top tier NFL quarterback.
Right. Guys.
Oh, Carson Palmer
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And,
there had to be somebody in between.
Andrew Luck. I knew there had to be somebody.
Yeah, Andrew Luck.
Let's see. Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
Cal.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
I forgot
there-
he went to California.
Yeah. So, got to move to offensive line that protects our quarterback, Dan Moore Jr. Interesting position there. You know,
Well-
there was some speculation that maybe Spencer Anderson could take that spot away from Dan Moore Jr. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but again, Dan Moore Jr. to me, I'm sorry, he has overstayed his welcome at Pittsburgh. If I
What
had,
is it with that guy?
you know, look at think about this. This is an episode of Survivor. Okay, we're on an island, and if I had to pick between Dan Moore Jr. and Mitch Trubisky as far as who to send off the island, I'm going to say Dan Moore, the tribe has spoken for. You're gone.
There's
I'm
nothing
sorry.
in
I mean,
torch.
Dan Moore, I think he has. Well, okay, when they drafted Broderick Jones, okay, I believe that set a little fire underneath Dan Moore. So he started, working out. He started honing his skills. Great, but then all of a sudden, around week 3 or week 4, it was like that all that work it just started little downfall, and he wasn't the same. And when it comes to left tackles, I mean, you got to. That's your anchor right there, because I mean, you protecting the quarterback's blind side if he's right-handed. And when I think of great left tackles, I think of Tony Baselli out of USC, another Pac-12 person. And I would like to have somebody like that. Or better yet, how about Villanueva? Good tackle. Dan Moore just he doesn't cut it. I mean, he has to go. Just trade him for somebody else. I mean,
Jerry Dulac thinks he'll be back again starting in 2024 as a starting tackle. I don't understand it. I don't understand the fascination with him. I understand if you're like, we've got bigger issues like center and other things we have to take care of first, I guess. But I don't understand. Was he graded like the worst tackle in the NFL last season?
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
The thing about Dan Moore that really, all right, first of all, obviously he's got to be the best guy in the locker room, because there's no way from a performance standpoint that you're looking at this going, hey, this is special right here. Everybody puts out, oh, he started 49 games in his career. Great. Well, 43 of those games that weren't against Myles Garrett are some of the worst left tackle play the NFL has seen over the last 3 years.
I could have started too. That doesn't mean it's any good.
Yeah, exactly. You might have even done a better job than Dan Moore, frankly. But Moore, the thing that bothers me about him is, I remember last season after they drafted Broderick, and I beat the drum last year for Broderick. I virtually every mock draft I did for Steeler Nation, virtually everybody who asked me my opinion, I wanted Broderick Jones. I remember Trey Essex and I kind of debating, well, is Broderick really a finished product? product. And I said, look, the guy's just a freak athlete. So having Broderick and then not playing him in left tackle last year was a huge mistake. Ben Roethlisberger comes out before the season and says, I really think Dan Moore Jr. is going to show something. Well, when the nicest thing that Roethlisberger could say about Moore as a player was, when he gave up a sack, he felt really bad about it. And I'd rather have the guy who cares and feels really bad about it than the talent. Well, I'd rather have the talent. I'd rather have the guy who doesn't give up the sack. So
right. Guess what? You don't have to feel bad about not giving up the sack.
But Bob, one thing to credit Dan Moore was when they played Cleveland and Myles Garrett was on that side, he did a damn good job. Make no mistake about it. He did a good job. He didn't give up any sacks. Great.
Well, he could be the backup and just play those 2 games against Cleveland every year then.
And that's fine.
And in reality, according to Pro Football Focus, Garrett almost sacked the quarterback a bunch of times playing against him. So who knows?
Those magical almost sacks. Right. Those magical almost sacks count for so much. I don't get it. I don't get why you have this phenomenal kid in Broderick Jones and you aren't doing everything in your power to develop him the way he needs to be developed. You know what I mean? There's all this talk about not wasting first-round draft picks, but you're squandering his talent on the wrong side of the line. He needs to go over there to the left where he belongs and play. And then you've got to figure it out for the other side. You can't go, well, he's, Dan Moore's less worse over here, so we're going to put him here. And Jones is so talented, he is okay over there. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't, is he having incriminating photos of like Mr. Rooney or something? Why does he get to stay?
And then a couple of days ago, it came out that, there was some thought that Spencer Anderson, who he's got the stigma of being a Maryland player and the memory of Matt Canada is fresh on everybody's mind, but he got picked from Maryland under Andy Weidel. So if Weidel, who's a much better talent evaluator, brings him in the 7th round and he progresses, then we've got something we never had for the last 6 or 7 years of Kevin Colbert, a complete draft class from top to bottom. But then yesterday, Ryan Wilson from CBS, or no, it was, 2 days ago, he was on the PM team with Pony and Mueller, and then Matt Miller, also from ESPN, they both came out with glowing reviews of Amarius Mims, who I like quite a bit. I like JC Latham just a little bit better, but I don't think he's going to be there when we pick. And they're saying that Mims is a better athlete than Jones was at Georgia. And if it wasn't for the injury, the Steelers would have no chance to pick him. But he's around in a lot of drafts, and they, a bookend set of tackles to protect whoever is playing quarterback for the next 5 to 7 years. I could live with that.
Guys, I know we talked about the quarterback situation with Russell Wilson, and we dabbled a little bit with Mason Rudolph, and I don't want to be a dead horse. I'm going to call an audible here. You ready for this? Mike Sullivan, quarterback coach, he is still on the roster as a senior offensive assistant. Mike Sullivan. Now, to me, the jury is still out on Mike Sullivan with me, because I truly believe that he has the keys to the Porsche. I mean, I think he could do so much better. I think he's selling himself short and selling the quarterback short as far as the play on the field. Mike Sullivan, to me, I believe he should be on a short leash. What are your thoughts on Mike Sullivan?
I mean, he's just a senior offensive assistant at this point. Liam, wasn't it Tom Arth they brought in as the new quarterback coach?
Yes.
So, Sullivan's still on the staff. How much input he'll have, it may just be for comfort. I don't think
I assume they wanted to keep him for like consistency purposes, something consistent for Kenny Pickett rather than turning everybody over. That's what I assumed it was. It wasn't so much about loving Mike Sullivan, but more about helping Pickett continue to develop.
Yeah, so you get Arthur Smith to replace Canada. You get Arth as the new quarterbacks coach, which, benefit of the doubt, okay, let's see what happens. But then Eddie Faulkner is back, Pat Meyer is back. Mike Sullivan's now back in a different role, but still offensive assistant. The only guy who's not back is freshman Jackson.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much success you're going to have, and Arthur Smith might be the guru of all gurus, but I don't know how much success you're going to have with Matt Canada's assistants outside of one new quarterback coach and what'll end up being a new receivers coach. I don't think that's a great recipe. And when things get tough, and they're saying, well, he's not playing well. Well, maybe if we ran some of these plays, well, those are the plays that you were terrible at for 3 years.
Right.
But people are comfortable with what they know. And as far as Mike Sullivan goes, those jobs he was rumored for, I don't think we can quantify how badly he was hurt by being associated with Matt Canada. He wasn't a great offensive coordinator to begin with. If you look back at his time when he was offensive coordinator, he ran offenses in the mid-20s. But the fact that he now is associated with the Canada name, it's one of the problems I have with retaining, Pat Meyer and before they even, hired Arthur Smith. I mean, let's get the Matt Canada stench all the way out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. The new wide receivers coach that they brought in is supposed to be a little bit of a taskmaster. So hopefully that's a good thing for these wide receivers, that he's somebody who helps unite that room and you help to unite the offense and pull these guys together, and maybe some feedback and mentoring for Pickens and Johnson would be good, especially Pickens. I want to see that kid be successful so badly. I like him so much, and I don't want him to get this reputation as this like toxic Deion Sanders type without Deion Sanders talent or something. I want him to do well.
Zach Azandi, if I pronounce it right. Yeah, he wide receivers coach Central Michigan when AB was there, and we saw what he developed. I believe that if he can stay in Pickens' ear, keep him motivated, keep him focused, I believe, and again, we pair him with a good quarterback, whether it may be Mason, Kenny Pickett, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields. I think if he can just develop a rapport with the quarterback, I mean, I think we'll see the second coming of in the division of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase.
I'm hoping that what that Arthur Smith brings to this offense is that sense of trust that seems to be missing among all of the skill players, and then Kenny Pickett. You know what I mean? They don't seem to trust him to throw the ball. It's very erratic who he was choosing to throw to and not throw to. We'd have whole games where we forget that Pat Freiermuth even existed, and and missing guys that are out in the field. And I think that's I can only imagine that has to make them feel like they got overlooked, and so it's not hard to understand why these young men get so frustrated when their talents are being squandered. So my hope is that Smith helps to, unite this group and have them learn to trust each other. You know what I mean? That they all have the same goal.
Yes.
I think that the important thing to remember about Smith's offense is there's room for one 1A receiver. At least there has been. That's been his MO since he became offensive coordinator in Tennessee and with Atlanta. It was Drake London in Atlanta, and AJ Brown in Tennessee. So he's got room for one guy to catch a bunch of passes. He's got room for one tight end to catch a bunch of passes. The other tight end and other receiver, they have to be content with the fact you're going to catch some deep balls. But let's face it, we're going to go to that person. And Diontae Johnson isn't going to be happy with that. And George
No.
Pickens isn't going to be happy with that if he is not the guy. Freiermuth is kind of an enigma because he's shown he's fine with not getting the ball. I mean, where's the Pat Freiermuth fits to say on the sideline?
Yeah.
There's been a couple incidents where he's looked unhappy, but where's he coming out and saying, "Hey, I exist. I'm a good tight end. Throw me the ball." And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Pat's option here, or well, not option, but if they extend him, because if you are going to extend him, he's certainly the best tight end, receiving on the
100%.
roster. He's not a great blocker. If you bring Freiermuth back, it's because you want to utilize him. I
Right.
mean,
Yes.
Heath Miller had a personality where he could defer and disappear,
Yeah.
but when it came to third down, Heath Miller got the ball.
When we had James as tight end, to me, he was pretty effective. And I don't think he was given, he didn't have to be looks his way. Unfortunately, like I said, he moved on. Remember Zach Gentry, Matt Spaeth, and we can go back, go as far back as the past, 7, 8 years. Probably less than 20% of the offensive plays have gone to the tight ends. And as stated before, it was a matter of either you throw to the right, of the hash marks, or to the left, but nothing in the middle. And the opposing defense said, you know what, they're not going to throw it there, so why not just move it on, shift the defensive backs out there and cover those areas. So yeah, Freiermuth, to me, yes, please bring him back by all means. I don't know if we ever going to get another tight end like Heath Miller. Does Pat Freiermuth have Heath Miller traits? I believe he does, if given a chance. And again, the plays have to be called for him. I don't want to see him go, and I'm sure he's coming up with a contract as well.
Yeah,
Pat's probably close to Heath as far as a receiver.
catching. Yeah.
Heath was just. I mean, he's so underrated. He was one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He was a great blocker. He was. I mean, sure as hands as could be. If Heath Miller dropped the ball, I think Palomalu said this in an interview in the last couple of years. If Heath Miller dropped the ball, everybody stopped and said, "Oh, Heath dropped a ball. What happened?"
And keep in mind,
we're never going to see Heath Miller, I don't think.
Right.
But Freiermuth. But then again, they don't play football like that anymore. I mean, we talked about this in our last podcast. They don't play football like that anymore. Freiermuth could be a Kelsey-like receiver. I don't think he's as good as Kelsey, but he could be that guy.
He could be.
Heath Miller coming out of Virginia, he won the Best Tight End Award that year coming out. I don't know if Pat Freiermuth did. But again, Pat Freiermuth, he was in the system where, played blue-collar football, out of Penn State, and he did damn good. I just wish they would utilize him more and more and more. To me, I guess when the Steelers get into the red zone, there should be no reason why one play can't go to Pat Freiermuth. One. At least one. I don't give a damn how you look at it. At least one play has to go to him.
Yeah.
I'd rather, I mean, honestly, if I'm in the red zone, I'd rather they consistently throw the ball to Pickens. For some reason, though, they try to get cute and they throw it to Diontae Johnson.
I don't understand that.
With the fade route, yeah, okay, I agree with that. I mean, Pickens is 6'4", 6'5"? Yes.
6'3".
Yeah. Okay, go up and get the ball. Just go get it. I'm with
Plus,
that.
he has an insane catch radius.
I was just saying, he just has the ability to bring the ball in a way that other players don't necessarily. Do you know what I mean? And good spatial awareness of the edge of the field and all of those things. There's just something special about him. I know there was a lot of times this past season where he was being double teamed. And so, maybe wasn't the best choice to throw to him or made Pickett panic or whatever. But to me, it looked like a lot of the plays that were designed to go to Diontae Johnson. And I don't understand that.
Yeah. I totally agree. It was, they prioritized, and maybe it has something to do with the year before when he didn't catch any touchdown passes. And I think they made a concerted effort to get him touchdowns this year, sometimes to the detriment of the
Yeah.
offense. But there were, I mean, Arthur Smith hopefully is going to at least eliminate some of the more bizarre red zone stuff or short yardage stuff, getting in shotgun and trying to run Najee up into all the people. I mean, hopefully all that goes away. Well, I mean, we're going to see. I mean, he hasn't played like that before, but then again, we go back to but then he only emphasizes one receiver, one tight end is the primary. That could have been Tannehill. It could have been Desmond Ritter and all those
Mhm.
guys in Atlanta. It could have been them, but I mean, reality is 5 years, several quarterbacks. One guy gets the
Same
ball
thing.
on a
Yeah,
receiver. One
agreed.
guy gets the ball as a tight end.
Yeah.
Guys, I know we're nearing the end of this episode here. Little news and notes. Former Steeler Tim McKyer, 60 years old, was arrested with a hit and run accident in Florida.
Saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
What a
know,
It's
shame.
unfortunate.
you hate to hear stories like that, a hit and run, and of course a former Steeler.
Yeah.
Tim McKyer came out of Division I 2A school. He played good, and of course, I did not know that he was the one that gave up that touchdown in the 1994 AFC Championship against the Chargers. I didn't know it was him
Oh,
because the play went to Alfred Pupunu,
right.
and normally Tim McKyer he plays cornerback, and I think
He was a corner, yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
went on to win a Super Bowl with Denver in '97, I believe, when they went back to back. But Tim McKyer, like I said, it's unfortunate for him to do that. Hey, you got to pay the price if you do wrong.
You almost hate to say it, but compared to some of the things that some of the ex-players end up doing, yeah, I mean, with all the domestic abuse and all the other stuff that's out there,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's terribly unfortunate, but unfortunately, life happens and it happens to everybody.
Yes.
Sure does.
Yes. Guys, any last words?
Looking forward to the start of the combine season coming up. I'm ready. Feel like
Same
football's
here.
finally kicking off again.
Same here. Same here. Guys, hey, thank you very much for coming on here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back next week. This is.
Oh, hey, Ray, one last thing.
Yes, sir.
If you haven't done it already and you watch till the end, please like, subscribe, and share this
Yes.
video.
Yes, thank you.
Damn it, you're right.
Good reminder.
I'm guilty of that. I'm sorry. Like and subscribe to the podcast. Like, share, subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe, share, like. Share, subscribe.
Whatever order you want.
Any order you want. Just do it. All right. Hey, guys, thank you very much for coming on. This is the Six Steel City Rings podcast. Have a good day.